Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and happy Shochu'sday, December 22nd, 2021. This is episode 82 of your favorite weekly live stream. Happy holidays and happy Shochu'sday, Stephen.
Happy Shochu'sday.
I've got coffee in my Christmas cup, which I don't just use in December, I use all year round.
I have coffee in my Mike Martino Kintsugi coffee mug.
That one's
As
made
always.
a few appearances as well, yeah.
Yes.
Well, what's going on?
Winding down for the year. Finish up work on Thursday, then have
Okay.
next week off, which will be pleasant. Looking forward to little downtime for Christmas and New Year's. Going to catch up on some writing and sleep and thinking, I guess. Probably a little bit of Netflix as well. Reading. I've really been enjoying Julia and Emma's book, The Way of the Cocktail, and got a bunch of other books that I want to get through. So I think I'm going to make that my priority in 2022. How about you? Any?
Yeah, I'm largely the same. Just disconnect from a couple of the major communication portals and to a certain extent. And yeah, do a little reading, do some reading that is more enjoyable rather than just academic articles all the time.
Sure.
And sit on my butt a little bit rather than stand at my standing desk, I guess.
I do that every so often. I'll take my laptop and sit at the dining room table, and it's a nice break. But I actually kind of prefer working here at the stand.
Yeah, get used to it after a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. What's I guess to us the exciting news is that we got our first publication in an alcohol trade.
That's right. Oh, let me find that real quick and show it to
site.
people.
Yeah,
Nice.
we had an opportunity to write a piece for 750 Daily, which is one of the bigger trade resources in the U.S. I wrote up a little bit of the history and that kind of thing, and on Shochu and Awamori, and then Christopher wrote about what do you write about? How the U.S. market may be ready for it. Yep.
Yeah, basically how things are shaping up for shochu and by extension Awamori too. Although Awamori doesn't get a whole lot of airtime in this particular op-ed, but
Yeah.
wish I guys should get some solid FaceTime in here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's kind of a fun way of collaborating because we sort of divided and conquered, right? It was I wrote the sort of introductory stuff, and then you wrote the why this matters to the U.S. market part, and then we just sort of went back and forth a couple times, editing and sending it in, and they had very minimal edits to what we had submitted. So good job.
Yeah, it was. I think there's more where that came from. If there's anybody else out there looking for good content, I guess we can help out. Yeah, it's nice to. We rely on 750 Daily and have relied on it for a while for insider takes on how things are going in a variety of beverage alcohol related industries. So it was pretty cool to be included amongst them for a moment. So yeah, please go give it a read, and if you have any comments or questions, please find us wherever, either in the comment section here, or you can find us, variously at different social networking site, social media, whatever it's called these days. Let me stop sharing that screen.
Sure, I'm just dropping the link in.
Oh, good call.
Yeah,
very very good call.
And they had 750 Daily had previously published an article in 2018 by Carrie Jones, which I still consider one of the better English language summaries of the category. And she had come on a press tour with the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association that I was involved in, and really wrote a nice piece for them. So glad to see that they're getting back to that was actually January of 2018. So it's now been almost 4 years since they had given attention to the category. But hopefully this is the first of many for them. I'll actually drop that one in the link in the chat as well.
Yeah, so definitely worth it. And let's barrage 750 Daily with a whole bunch of Shochu related clicks and activity, because that'll tell them that they need to come back to the well.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Any other booze news you can think of? I guess what was front of mind for us, it's not exactly brand new, but we recorded an episode about it last night for the podcast, is that the announcement of the reopening of the Karuizawa whiskey distillery in Nagano. And what was really interesting, I don't want to steal too much of our thunder from that episode, which will be coming out in January, but the original Karuizawa distillery and the brand for the whiskeys made out of that distillery are all owned by Kirin, by the beer conglomerate, who also makes the Fuji whiskey, which just hit the U.S. market, which is a grain whiskey. But Kirin's not involved in the new Karuizawa distillery. It's actually Mitsubishi, which is showing you how much potential Japan believes their whiskey market has, that one of the largest conglomerates in the country has decided to enter the alcohol game. It's pretty wild.
Conglomerate is the correct word there. That's the preferred
they make everything.
They really do.
And they do everything. I mean, they do, obviously everybody knows the cars and trucks, but they've got electronics, they've got that they make like home appliances, they make all sorts of things, and then
they got a bank.
Yeah, that's right. They have a bank. They have like logistics services, warehousing, shipping. Like they do everything. Yeah. And the one thing that they hadn't really been doing is booze. And I guess they said, Japanese whiskey seems to have potential.
Here's a chance.
So they are opening the Karuizawa distillery up in the mountains of Nagano. So, but so the episode that's coming up, we have 2 episodes actually recorded, right? So that one's not the next one. The next one will be what? I guess we'll talk about it next week, maybe. Anyway.
Yeah, the next one is when will we talk?
Will be in January.
Will we talk it before? It'll be January.
It'll be next. It's January 3rd. Will be the release date. So we'll talk about that episode next week.
Gotcha.
As a primer.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, we started up season 2. We got some interesting content, I think. We started to line up some interviews, which is exciting. We're practicing interviews and practicing being interviewed to see how it works on a podcast format. And hopefully people enjoy it.
Moving on.
You sure?
Yeah. The main event, and this is what we wanted to talk about. Is it? What's
That's
that?
not it. No.
Oh, I have to edit that, don't I? I'm going to hide that for now. That was last week, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. That was 2 weeks ago.
That was a while ago.
Let me edit this real quick.
Yeah.
So the main event today, and this is the beauty of this platform. You can do this on the fly. Show.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Try that. Take 2. Holiday drinks. And actually, this was the topic of a recently released Sake on Air podcast, which is kind of a bunch of snippets from a whole bunch of the hosts of that show strung together about what they think of as holiday drinks for them. And, eggnog being one of them if you happen to celebrate Christmas. And I don't know, what are the other classic ones? I suppose things with coffee and liqueurs in them, or that sort of thing is pretty common. People think cold weather, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, so warm drinks become a thing. I don't know, what strikes you as a holiday drink?
Yeah, certainly eggnog, and eggnog is supposed to have alcohol in it, and unlike I understood as a child, because nobody put booze in my eggnog. But
infidels.
Yeah, but actually the one that I've been keen to try is hot buttered rum.
Sure.
As you know, I've developed a bit of a rum obsession over the last year or so. Yeah. And it's a pretty dead simple drink. It's you dissolve sugar in hot water, and then you add rum and a pat of butter, and then you
hot buttered rum. I haven't had one of those forever.
top it up with hot water, and then you can sprinkle a little whatever your Christmas seasoning or spice of choice, a little nutmeg, a little cinnamon, whatever you like. Top it off, and yeah, it sounds like a really interesting drink. I knew of the drink, but I'd never tried it. It's kind of, I guess it's more of a northeastern or midwestern drink, and growing up in Florida and not being allowed to drink alcohol as a child, I never really associated hot buttered rum with Christmas, but it sounds like a fun drink. And David Wondrich, our favorite drinks historian, his mother used to actually heat it up by putting the hot fire poker. She'd heat up the fire poker in the fireplace and then dunk that in the mug.
That's one way to do it. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's impressive. It's like sticking a molten lava in the middle of your drink, so it probably starts boiling almost immediately. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Might get a little bit of brown butter effect on that if you do it right. But yeah, so I realize I'm out of Ruri Kakesu, which I think is the Japanese rum that might play best in a hot buttered rum. So I'm going to go out and pick up a bottle of that this afternoon.
Yeah. And Maya Ailey, our guest from last week, says hot toddy. There you go. I think that's a logical choice. And Justin, riffing on your comment just now, said that the hot poker is not uncommon.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Well, that's funny because actually I'd never been to William Barnacle. I'd walked past it hundreds of times. And then my last time in New York, Christopher, your friends opened a sandwich shop.
Right next
sandwich
door.
Stand.
Yeah.
It's actually, they actually is sort of the kitchen for the William Barnacle.
You're right. It's just a little pocket there on the left side of the entrance.
Yeah. And so I actually got a beer from the William Barnacle while I was waiting for my sandwich because then I could sit and use their outdoor seating. Yeah. Because they were shooing away the people who were waiting for their sandwiches who wanted to use the outdoor seating. So
yeah,
what's that shop called?
It's called Foxface. Yep. I just put it in the chat.
Foxface. Yeah.
I don't know I can't recall if it's one word or two. I put it in the chat as 2 words, but they make great sandwiches. So I highly recommend it. And they're old friends of mine actually who have lived in Tokyo. They, part of the year, and they're foodies, and they're definitely the type of folks that get on a plane to go eat it at a specific place. They really, they love to dine, and they make amazing sandwiches. So get them before they get locked down again or whatever.
Head over to William Barnacle, get a hot buttered rum, sit on the terrace, and keep yourself warm while you wait for your sandwich.
Not a bad idea at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're talking about hot drinks, I suppose I have to interject that obviously Oyuwari shochu pours and awamori pours are going to be very, very smart moves at this point. So, add 50% of the glass's volume, depending on how big the glass is. Let's keep our Oyuwari small, I would say. Let's just make this a general rule. The main reason why is because the bigger the cup, the quicker it cools off. So just, I think smaller pours, and if you think about how small the Southern Kyushu Oyuwari glass is, this is pretty small. This is probably 90 milliliters or so. It's basically half of one go, and it's tengo go. And so I think it's a smart move because you're naturally going to be covering the whole glass with your hand. And I have big mitts. There's no doubt, but still, this is a nice, modest pour, and you can go back for seconds, right? So keep it small to keep the heat up. Of course, I guess you could use the hot poker idea on your Oyuwari too. I don't know if that's ever been done, but you would want to be careful not to scald the shochu.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel like this Mike Martino cup is actually a nice,
better. Yep.
It's a nice size too. It actually is probably marginally more than one of those standard Satsuma cups.
I'm sure
Satsuma glasses, but not too much. I think this might, because I have a larger one of those Satsuma cups from Monzen Distillery, and I'm guessing this is about the same fill size. So just maybe 10-20% larger. But yeah, you don't want to go to a big old coffee mug of it because it's going to be nurui.
Yeah, it's going to be room temperature before too long.
Yeah, by the time you finish.
You're not starting at a very high temperature anyway. Yeah, unless you're
Mhm.
gulping it, which I don't really think you should be doing. You should just be enjoying the aromas. But if you, if you start at, damn it, stupid Celsius to Fahrenheit, um, if you're starting in the 150s or so Fahrenheit with your temperature before you add the shochu, the room temperature shochu or awamori, then you're gonna knock that temperature down to around 120 pretty quickly, and then that's gonna get down below 100 within about 10 minutes. So, and that's when you're kind of getting to the point like, well, this is not quite what it was when it started. It's
Sure,
like when
sure.
your drink gets super watered down because all the ice is melted. It's a little bit
Hmm.
along those lines. It's become something completely different and not to the potential that it started at. So,
Sure, sure.
but yeah, Oyuari season for the normal folks, or if you're like me, it's just another Wednesday. And
Yeah.
then I recommend chestnut. I got a chestnut shochu here.
Uh,
Chestnuts roasting
oh,
on the open
there you
fire,
go.
right?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I know this.
Like we realize sweet potato is great for Thanksgiving, right? Because people cook all sorts of sweet potato casseroles and things for Thanksgiving. So sweet potato shochu on your Thanksgiving table, chestnut shochu on your Christmas table.
There you go. And
Great,
this
great
one
call.
is from Ia, so it's not one of the famous ones. This was sent to me as a gift after a project I worked on, and there are some pretty famous chestnut shochus. Shochu, I just pluralized that by accident, which I try very hard not to do. Shochu chestnut, what? Chestnut shochu that is made in like Kochi Prefecture over in
Hmm.
Shikoku.
Hmm.
Dabada Hiburi is the most famous of them, but I think there are a couple of other ones now, and it's an interesting style to say the
Yeah, it
least.
really is. Of
This
course, you
is
mentioned alcohol made with chestnuts, and I immediately think of the Hideji stout made with chestnuts.
and that's a great one, right? That's a great
That's a
beer.
delicious beer. Yeah. As far as hot service, another thing that actually is done in Japan, and I think used to be done more in Scotland than it is today, but that's hot water in your whiskey. Right? You could do an oyuwari with your
Yeah,
whiskey,
sure.
and I
I
think with a
have heard that. I've
nice,
never tried it.
I think with a nice malt whiskey, that would probably be quite nice if you're using. You'd have to experiment a little bit, figure out which one of your whiskeys plays best that way. I think with a grain whiskey or something, it might be a little bit harsh, but uh, with a malt, that might be nice. So, idea. I think I'll play
I
around with that this
I
this
need to
winter as
try that
well.
at least once, but I kind of want guidance on that because I don't want to screw up the whiskey.
Okay, I'll
I'm
I'll I'll experiment.
Yeah, you waste some. I'm at a point where all of the remaining whiskey in this room is actually pretty good stuff, and I
Hmm.
I dole it out in very small drams, and
Yeah.
I don't want to waste any of it,
Well,
lest I
that's the
have
thing
to
is,
go back on Yahoo auctions and replenish.
yeah, if you're going oyuwari with a 25% alcohol shochu at about 50-50 for a 45-50% whiskey, you're probably going what
You want
three
to go a lot
seven or
lower.
2.8, right?
I
Yeah.
think you'd have to go much
So
heavier on the hot water.
yeah, I'll be playing around with that. I've been, as I mentioned, ever since we recorded our whiskey service styles podcast episode, I've been drinking my whiskey twice up, 50-50 with water.
Uh huh.
And that's been a nice way to do it. So I may try an oyu at that ratio. I think it's going to be a little hot, but we'll see. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I'll report back.
20 to 25% ABV is not that's not crazy, but okay,
Yeah. I mean,
that sounds
when you're sipping on whiskey, you expect a higher proof anyway. So,
yeah.
oh, I
How
guess that's
about
some other booze news actually.
what's that?
Can we go back? Can we go
Yeah,
back to the beginning?
I'll change the. Let's hit the reverse button. There you go.
Yeah, since we're talking about whiskey, we did talk about whiskey. We talked about Karuizawa, but this was released. The
Oh
Malt Whiskey
yeah.
Yearbook, 2022, just came out a little while ago. And why this is exciting is there is an entire piece on Japanese whiskey rules, or not quite. And look what's featured right there on the cover is Takamine 8-year Koji whiskey. This is by Stefan Van Eycken, the author of Whiskey Rising.
Here you go. Here's Stefan's book.
Yeah, there's Stefan's book. And he gets into, well, as the little tagline says, now this is only available in print, so you can't, if you go to their website, what it links to is how to buy it, but it's quite affordable. It's about $15. It says Japanese whiskey can compete with the top single malts in the world. The lack of rules and regulations, though, sometimes leave the consumer in doubt what is actually in the bottle. A new standard set up by some of the top producers seeks to eliminate the confusion, and he gets into sort of who was responsible for that, the increased use of grain whiskey, and then he talks about the birth of koji whiskey, right over here, and then he's got actually a nice photo of Jokichi Takamine and some pearled barley for a koji whiskey fermentation, and then he said a new wind is blowing. I do need to read the article, but it looks like there's a lot of debate about what Japanese whiskey will be, and appreciate Stefan for taking the time to write that for Malt Whiskey Yearbook 2022. That was a really pleasant surprise. We had talked to him a long time ago, told him the story of Takamine and that sort of thing, and to have him coming around and writing that piece is pretty cool. And he's a legit whiskey pro. I mean, he does his own single casks. He has his own cask ownership program. Like, he buys barrels. He owns barrels at distilleries scattered throughout Japan and Scotland, actually. And he does these single bottle these bottlings of those casks, and then he doles them out to friends and family and that sort of thing. So, very well respected guy in the whiskey world. So I'm glad he's open to the conversation about, does how you sacrifice your grains really matter for what classifies a whiskey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway. it's a good reference too. It's got tons of distillery profiles in it, and a bunch of other writing by people of a stature that could be considered the same echelon as Stefan. And look at the what is it? A few pages before our page, there's a guy with a New York Mets cap on, so it's got to be it's got some levity to it, which is nice. Yeah. So good. I'm glad we hit the rewind button. Let's go back. Let's fast forward again. Next banner I'm going to throw up there is the Shochu Rakuen 2021, and we're on to bottle number 5 of 6. And this is
in the first pack.
In the first, we're so far behind. And this is made by Yanagita Shuzo. This is a 35% ABV sweet potato shochu made in the Senbon Zakura style. Yep, 35% ABV. This is going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, and in the States, his most well-known brand, I believe, is Aokage.
Right.
But then they've also got his, which is it expresses almost as roasted barley, but it's not made with roasted barley. He just caramelizes the fermentation inside the still to get that flavor and aroma profile. And then Koma is his lighter vacuum distilled expression that's available in the US. But I actually talked about him on our Shinshu episode recently, because he makes this tsubomi. This is his Shinshu, and it's sweet potato. He's known as a barley shochu producer, but recently he's been making some pretty amazing sweet potato, and so it's fun that he put sweet potato into the Rakuen pack. And at 35% alcohol, which we've talked about before, that's the old school ABV. Most shochu now in Japan is sold at 25%, but 35% is what was done years ago. And some makers still make that expression. And I'm glad to see Yanagita playing around with it a little bit, because you get so much more body and aroma from the 35.
True. This one starts off very bright and fresh, with on the nose.
Seems to be a theme in this year's Rakuen.
It absolutely does. There's a lot of fruitiness going on. This is made with Beni Haruka sweet potatoes, and
yeah, you can get that.
And they're aged in Miyako-no-jo, which is the city where Yanagita Distillery is located. And this one is recommended, according to the the little manual that comes along with this, and it talks about the drink. Man, I can't get this stupid camera on StreamYard is backwards. It talks about the drink, and then it talks about the pairing that they recommend. It tells you where to buy the main brand, and the food pairing is actually a nashi dish, so a Japanese pear based dish that also has prosciutto and some leafy greens added to it. A little bit of olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, honey, salt, and black pepper. So yeah, that actually sounds kind of nice. So you got the
almost a melon prosciutto. Yeah.
Yeah, chopped up fruit with some greens, and then this. I guess you make this kind of slaw almost from the other ingredients that's added to the side. Looks
nice.
Good. They as they tend to, and you take this as you will. Of course, there's a comment in here that women will enjoy it. I don't. We gotta somehow steer them away from this nonsense, because you're just gonna. It's just offensive.
Well, I mean, if you think about baby steps with Japanese gender relations, the fact that women are acknowledged as someone who might drink alcohol, I think, is a step forward.
All right. Yeah. Sure. Perhaps. It's a knee-jerk reaction to anything with a light or sweet profile. I just I don't get it. This feels like it should be another edition of Shochu'sday. Just knock it off. maybe that's all I need to say on that. Stop doing that, guys. Yep. Yeah. So this is oh, sorry, I haven't even sipped it yet, but it is bright and fresh. You would expect that from the Beni Haruka, but it has, now that it's settled a little bit, it's got the peppery notes.
Yeah, I was getting some of the sort of.
Ooh, hello now. Oh, wow. Wow, that's actually really good. That's surprisingly deep. I did not expect it to go that many octaves deep.
Yeah, that's quite a. It's well above the aroma. The aroma is pretty reserved, isn't it?
It's you get more of the sweetness on the aroma, but then it hits at the front. The sweetness comes pretty early, and then it just unfolds. And like, oh, by the way, you want to taste the earth? Here you go.
Yeah.
You want to taste a little bit of how these sweet potatoes were doing in the first few months of their gestation. Holy crap, that was wild. That's I mean, just it's a testament to Mr. Yanagita and his team. He just really doesn't do anything wrong, to be perfectly honest with you.
Sure. No, he's. I think we've talked about him a little bit before. After my trip to Miyazaki recently, the press tour that I was on, and visiting him in Watanabe, and how there's such completely different philosophies on shochu making. Mm-hmm. Where Watanabe's like, they just throw open the windows and let all the house yeasts in, and I don't know how well they clean their potatoes and that sort of thing, and they get lots of funk in their distillate. And then Yanagita is much more considered. He's an engineer, so his distillery is pristine. There are no windows to speak of around the fermentation rooms. And he just makes these really, really elegant expressions, and they're both great. And people respond to both of those distilleries' products, but the philosophies behind them are just so different. And it's such a microcosm to be able to visit those two places, because they are so extremely different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Watanabe will show up in this Rakuen set at some point. But we started with Yanagita, so.
Probably. Yeah, this is A set. We're almost through A set. I guess we can probably finish. We'll get the 6th one out of the way next week, potentially.
Yeah, if you bring it with you.
No, I'll be back here by then.
Oh, you will be? Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're gone for less than a week. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of a quick trip. Yeah, just need the problem with I'm going to Okinawa for the holidays, and the problem is that you spend too much time down there, and then you don't ever want to come back, and so it's a magnet. It's a trap. I need to be
Did you
careful.
buy a place there yet?
No, don't get me started. So let's see. Let's moving on. What's next? Newly opened. Newly opened is
Oh,
next.
sure. Yeah. And I've been, I guess since I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, I've done more
Probably
damage
got
to
a
this
bunch
bottle
of
than I anticipated.
Oh,
But I opened this bottle of the new classic Imo Shochu, which is a blend from Yamato Zakura, where he blends, if I remember correctly, an 8-year-old Kogane Sengan with his standard to get this, and all white koji, but the aged, and it's, you can see I've done a little bit of damage. Now that's been over more than 2 weeks, and it's been my exclusive sipper basically over that time. So, Mom, I'm sorry. But really, and he, and Tekan, of course, is into the minimalist label thing recently, and so he's got a lot of white. I feel like I could take notes about the drink right there on the label.
you should
and
just put your tasting notes on there.
And I was actually, so I have a small one. I've got the 720 here, and I was actually going to open the 720 and hold on to the Ishobin. Wait, how do I do this? You're right, this is all backwards.
Weird.
But when I picked up the 720, I looked at the back label and realized that this was bottled on my 50th birthday.
Oh no shit!
So now I don't feel like I can ever. I don't think I can ever open it because it's
unless you get another one,
an heirloom bottle,
and you might know the guy who makes it, so it might
fair,
be possible.
Fair.
Maya says that this year's new classic is a 9-year.
Yep, and this one is not this year's. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't. This is actually this was bottled 2 days before my 50th birthday.
Okay, well that's an heirloom too, or the bottle.
Yeah, so these are
put some.
These are
Flowers
2020 bottlings. Yeah. So. Yeah, I actually, after working the distillery last year, I ordered a case of Ishobin from Yamato Zakura, and I'm still working through that case. I haven't gotten through all of those bottles.
There's
for some reason I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, for some reason, I'm less likely to open an Ishobin. I like to just have them around and like savor the fact that I have them and then not crack them. And I think that's silly. Except I feel like it's a constant battle to try to get rid of the 720s and the 900s because there are so many of them and they multiply like cats or rabbits.
Yeah.
So and they seem less efficient. You can, you know what I mean? Weight to alcohol, they are less efficient. So I want to get rid of them, and so I end up not wanting to open my big boys. And yet, I think it's irrational. I should just drink what I want to drink, right?
I agree. And there's nothing more fun than receiving a 6-pack of 1.8 liter bottles of shochu, but it is 6 bottles. I mean, that's a lot of booze. And while they're efficient, they take up a lot of space. And my collection has at least, which spreads over multiple closed door rooms in this apartment, it's kind of bursting at the seams. And I use the 720s and 900s as gifts now. And if I run out of those, I'm just going to show up with one of these big bastards and like, here, carry this home. And people are going to be like, oh, you're a tit. So, I mean, I know a lot of our very close friends watching right now would love to receive a 1.8 liter bottle of good shochu, but a lot of the people that I go see, visit, and like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Here's a bottle. Take this home and enjoy it. They probably don't want to carry a 1.8 liter bottle around with them for the rest of the day.
And I guess that's the other struggle is we get so many samples
that's the other thing. Yeah.
You want to get rid of the samples, but then sometimes they're not something you necessarily would have chosen on your own. And so you're taking the opportunity to deplete stock.
And sometimes there's samples where it's a mystery. It's 40%, and you can't give this to somebody. They'll be like, what is that? Is that 40% cyanide? What are you doing to me? Right? So, we've got a lot of these samples.
Sure. That's kind of the debate is today a usual day where I'm just going to drink something to deplete, or is today a special day and I'm going to drink something special?
Right. And I got it. What's my recently opened? What did I talk about last week? Last week I think I talked about the Zuiko, and
Mm.
this week I'm going to talk about recently opened. I mean, honestly, the most recently opened was another Ishobin of Isami, but I talked about
Mm.
this a few weeks ago. I got a 6-pack of this, so I'm just trying to go through it.
And you
And
did send me one.
I sent you
Thank
one
you.
of them, so
Yeah.
I have 5 left.
And I
And
did open
then
that.
did you
You
good?
know what?
Yeah,
Yeah. You know what that expresses as almost to me? It almost reminds me of Mao.
a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
It's got a
You
little more
it is
body
light.
to it, but it's on that light side of the spectrum. Easy
You're
drinking.
right. Uh huh. It
Yeah.
certainly is on the easy side. Yep.
Hmm.
And I mean, this is what I opened recently, and I sent you a bottle of this as well. Is the Hampton 46%
Yep.
rum, and this is a Jamaican rum, and I really like this. The reason why I Hampton got on my radar was uh, at Death and Co. in New York City. They put Takamine cold 8-year Koji whiskey in a cocktail, which is pretty amazing. It's $100 bottle of whiskey, and they're using it in a
Hmm.
cocktail. And one of the other things in that drink, which is awesomely dubbed an adrenaline rush, because Dr. Takamine actually discovered medical adrenaline, is the Hampton Overproof, which I haven't opened yet because it's 60% ABV and it intimidates me a little bit. But I went and found this, and then I also found this, and it's really cool. And we both were reading this rather meticulous label. There's a ton of fine print on here. They just kind of explain a lot of different things about this
Hmm.
distillery. And the one that you mentioned that I had also caught my eye was their explanation of aging. And I think this is something that we're going to get into in the future, which was that it says fully matured in the tropics, aging for 8 years in a tropical climate produces an angel share equivalent to 25 years aging in Europe, which means that the fill level on those casks is dropping quick.
Hmm. Hmm.
That which must be alarming.
Yeah. Well, it also means that spirits aged in warmer climates, you don't want them to be 15, 20, 25 years old.
They're gonna be gone. There won't be
Yeah.
anything
I mean,
left.
there's a reason why the sweet spot for American bourbon is 6 to 10. You don't want something that runs too long because it's going to get too woody. And that actually with this Hampton rum, which I really appreciate. Again, thank you for the gift. 8 years might have been too long for this. It's got a lot of wood,
It
and I
does.
think I might have actually enjoyed it more. And I will enjoy it. Don't worry. This is going to be my hot buttered rum base, but the at least for one of them, with Ruri Kakesu being the other.
Probably
I'll
Ruri
do a
Kakes is
head to
gonna
head.
work better. Yeah.
But I think this at 3 or 4 years in a cask probably is like the sweet spot. I'm guessing the seven feels a little bit overly woody, and I think we should keep that in mind as more and more of the Japanese whiskey makers down in Okinawa and in
Southern.
Kyushu start to open up. You might not want that. The Hibiki 17 is a gorgeous drink, but that's also aged up in Kansai, right? So you might want to adjust. Older doesn't mean better, I guess, with barrel aged spirits.
Yeah, not always. Yeah,
So
you're right.
something to keep in mind. In fact, that was interesting. Anyway, I'll save that for another time. But when we'll go into a dive into that. I think that's a great idea. Have a conversation about this on a podcast episode. So
Yeah, definitely.
nice. Yeah. Thank you again for the Hampton. And I am curious about that overproof. I have a little bit of experience with overproof rums, and they're very, very strong, but they make amazing daiquiris. And I imagine they work in other cocktails as well, such as the Adrenaline Rush, which is so cool that
Can't
Death
wait
and
to
Company
try it.
has Takamine in a cocktail. So again, all you New Yorkers, after you have your sandwich at Fox Face, you lay down the base, you've had your hot buttered rum, wander over to Death and Co. Go in
Is it on
and order
6th or something? Where is it?
an adrenaline rush. They're really close to each other. They're like a
Yeah, they
block
are.
away.
It's
Yeah.
it's highly walkable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get there early so that if you're by yourself, you probably can cozy up to the bar. They'll let you in for a couple of drinks before it gives way to reservations. And try the
Maybe you do it the opposite. Maybe you go have your adrenaline rush and then you go have the
go
sandwich
have
in the room.
Fox Face. I'm not sure if Fox Face stays open late into the day though.
Okay. They lunch
They
spot?
might
I
be
don't know.
mostly lunch right now. I could be I could be wrong. I don't know
Mhm.
what they're experiencing the same challenges that everybody else is vis-a-vis staffing and trying to keep. It's a nightmare.
Gotcha.
Getting people to show up on time and do things reliably.
Right.
So yeah, when I was there this summer, I talked to the owners about that a little bit, and they said, yeah, it's been a challenge. We constantly have new people cycling through, and it's just people are they have more choice, which is great, and they recognize that, and I'm sure they pay accordingly. But it's a tough labor market, as you can imagine, and being in service makes it even tougher.
Yeah, I mean, God bless everybody in the States that's struggling through this new wave, and it looks like it's gonna be a rough winter.
Yeah, it is.
But keep on keeping on. You made it through the first few waves without a vaccine, so hopefully this one will be much more mild with a vaccine. But
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Justin just says he thinks they close at around 9. So my information was probably dated, as is often the case for somebody who doesn't live anywhere near New York.
Yeah, but cool. That's a
wrap.
very New York focused episode today, but not a problem.
Yeah, good one. Another good one. All right. Well, let's call it a morning, and then I can go do some more shopping. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody out there who celebrates.
Merry
And,
Christmas,
happy holidays.
Happy holidays, and next year we'll say Happy New Year, I guess. And and stay happy, stay safe wherever you are. Keep smiling, and make sure that you have plenty of holiday drinkable booze, which is probably most booze. I will grant you that. I know that was a ridiculous comment, but let's see if we can do something that's a little bit more in the spirit of the holidays this year, at least once, and take a photo of it and tag us. Tag Japan Distilled. Say here was my holiday drink, and if it's just a Corpse Reviver, then that's cool. We'll take that as well.
We'll take anything.
Yeah.
Almost.
Hit us up.
Yep.
Thank you,
Great
folks.
Thanks to everybody for listening, and again, Merry Christmas and Kanpai.
Kanpai, you guys, everybody, stay happy, stay healthy, keep smiling. From both of us here in Japan, a very hearty and heartfelt Kanpai.